Now, a US official has told Al Jazeera that Iran is supplying weapons to aid the Syrian crackdown against protesters. The official said the chief of Iran's elite Quds force was in the Syrian capital this month to meet leaders. The US believes that Qasem Soleimani's visit is a clear indication of Tehran's involvement in violence against the Syrian protesters. Well, meanwhile, the emir of Qatar has become the first Arab leader to suggest sending troops into Syria to end the violence. A 10-month crackdown on anti-government protesters has left more than 5,000 people dead. In an interview with the US broadcaster CBS, Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani was asked if he was in favor of Arab nations intervening. His words were, for such a situation to stop the killing, some troops should go to stop the killing. Well, the number of dead keeps rising, with activists reporting 5 people killed on Saturday. That's in addition to 26 on Friday. These pictures show armed men on the streets of Damascus, apparently breaking up anti-government protests. Friday's protests were in support of armed opposition group, the Free Syrian Army. Well, let's take all this on. Let's discuss this. I'm joined by Rami Khouri, who's director of the Islamic Affairs Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs at the University of Beirut. Welcome to the program, Mr. Khouri. What do you make of, first of all, what do you make of the Emir of Qatar's statement about troops being needed now on the ground in Syria?
Well, it's a statement that, first of all, is very much in line with the trend that we've seen in the Arab region for the last 4 or 5 months, with a continuous ratcheting up of criticism of what's going on in Syria, the way the Syrian government is behaving, and suggestions about what to do about it. Second of all, it is consistent with Qatar's policy. The Qataris have been very much in the forefront of leading the united, at least coordinated Arab moves through the Arab League, including this mission of monitors. So I think this is something that's not at all surprising, but it was a very vague statement. It wasn't very precise. It leaves open many interpretations, but it's a very strong message that the pressure is going to continue from within the region.
Yeah, and of course it's easy to say, but much harder to implement, which we'll get onto in just a second. But first of all, if troops were to go in the first place, in what capacity could it be? Could they be stationed around the borders? I mean, how would they be able to, in effect, stop the violence without getting involved themselves, which could lead to all sorts of problems?
Well, there's many formula that people can explore. You can have troops right on the border. You can have troops just within the border. You can have troops going in theory, with the approval of the Syrian government, that's almost impossible to imagine. And then you might have action taken by troops from a distance, from the air, providing a no-fly zone, providing a humanitarian corridor. There's many different possibilities. The use of troops, if it happens, is clearly in the context of defending the civilians, not necessarily taking on the Syrian army. The irony, the supreme irony of this is that the Syrians themselves used their army to go into Lebanon in 1976, when the Lebanese Civil War started, as a peacekeeping force to protect the Lebanese from killing each other after some very vicious fighting happened in 1975 at the beginning of the Civil War. And the Syrians, of course, stayed in Lebanon for 25, 30 years and then were forced to leave in 2005.
Okay,
so the Syrians have experience.
All right, I just wanted to say, because we're just running out of time, but there's one phrase that I'll just pick up there, as you say, if it happens, if troops do go in. What's the likelihood of this actually happening at all, do you think?
I think the likelihood is very small right now. You need a combination of serious Arab consensus and legitimacy through the Arab League, international consensus through the Security Council, and all the neighbors agreeing. I think it's a kind of pressure more than anything else, but I think the pressure is rising, and the Syrians have to respond more seriously than they have to date. There's no sign of that coming from Syria, so I fear we're in for a continued situation of great bloodshed in the country and political stalemate until something happens in Syria that turns the tables.
All right, Rami, on that note, we'll leave it. Rami Khouri with that perspective on the situation in Syria. Thanks a lot.